Hi, I'm Lorene Sauro, and I'm a certified functional nutrition practitioner. And today I want to talk to you about eating consistently for the gut. So, this is the sixth episode in our series, Evidence You're Underfeeding Your Gut. And a lot of people get confused as to how often they're supposed to eat a certain way. And so, what we're going to do is clarify that today to make it more enjoyable and easier for you to plan the food that you're going to eat for your gut. So, what we're talking about today is how inconsistent eating patterns confuse the gut. And you may hear this may be you, this may be something you say, I eat well most of the time. Unfortunately, digestion doesn't run on averages and it responds to patterns. So, in other words, you can't bank all the good eating to cover for, I'm going to say bad eating, even though there's no such thing. By the way, your liver also doesn't like it when you do this as well. It wants consistency. Everything wants consistency. I want consistency. It responds to what it experiences repeatedly. So remember, we're trying to produce an ecosystem, which is our gut, and that gut needs constant feeding. So in other words, to have the best microbes doing the proper function the microbes are supposed to do, they need to be fed repeatedly. So in practical terms, this means you do not you do not need to eat perfectly. That's important for people to understand so that you're not hung up on restrictions or following a strict diet or something like that. You do not need to eat ideal foods every single day, and you do not need constant variety. So the goal here is to pick what you need to do and eat it consistently, but enjoy it and be choosing foods that you want to eat. So what does the gut actually need? Well, it thrives on predictability, rhythm, repeated signals. It's not looking for perfection. And there are common inconsistent patterns that a lot of people engage in. So it can look like skipping meals. People do that. Most people pat themselves on the back when they skip a meal because they go, oh, that's less calories for me. But that also means it's less food for the microbes as well. Eating a little all day long and then a big dinner. That is a big no-no because you're putting too much in at once and you're not giving it enough throughout the day, and the microbes don't like that either. Or you can do what they call weekday versus weekend eating, where you eat like a saint all weekend or week long, and then on the weekend you just go gung ho. Well, gut doesn't like that either. So another thing you could possibly be doing is starting and stopping different food plans. If you're constantly going on new diets or trying new approaches, gut doesn't like that either. Or finally, eating certain foods only occasionally. So you know certain foods would be really good for you, and yet you eat them once every 3 months or something like that. So what does this do to microbes? Well, when feeding is irregular, microbes can't stabilize. Fermentation becomes uneven. Gas, bloating, and discomfort increase. So these are all the things most people are trying to avoid. And because of the way they're eating, they might be encouraging it. Hunger signals can become unreliable as well when the symptoms feel random. So you may get symptoms as a result of your eating patterns. Who knows? You need to be the one observant for that. And this is why people might say, some days I'm fine and some days I'm not. The same food bothers me sometimes. I don't know what sets me off. It's not random. It's inconsistent input. So in other words, you haven't fed the microbes consistently, therefore they're not functioning consistently, and you're experiencing symptoms inconsistently as a result. The gut does not reset overnight either. So microbes are going to respond slowly. And when we're talking about microbes responding slowly, we're talking about permanent changes that are going to help you see improved function in your body. And I'm not just talking about in the gastrointestinal system, I'm talking about throughout the body because the microbes are in communication with the entire body. And they need repetition, they need frequency, and small ongoing inputs. So they're being fed just like you on a regular basis. Not occasional effort. Big changes aren't the solution. So more food, it does not mean better digestion. You can't just all load it all in there. And of course, more variety doesn't mean you're going to tolerate the foods any better. Without structure, more can often make things worse. So we really want to be careful on how much we eat, when we eat, and what we eat. Consistency comes before variety. So before adding new foods or more fiber or fermented foods, the gut needs regular feeding signals in order to be able to handle these. One of the things we do in the gut balance method is there's a checklist with 6 different food layers in it, or categories if you prefer that word. And these cover a huge range of microbial families. And therefore, if you get foods from each of the 6 categories, you are doing a really good job of getting food into all of the microbes that you may have, and start building new ones and increasing your diversity and quality and quantity of strains. But it's important to understand that when you don't have some from each of those categories, somebody's not getting fed. One of the microbe species or several of the microbe species are not being fed, and therefore you're going to have some symptoms as a result of that. It's pretty straightforward. So the goal is to give the gut regular feeding signals. And when you use the checklist, it also helps making sure you get those 6 different categories, but it also shows you the huge variety of foods you have to choose from. So it's impossible that you won't be able to find something you like. You'll be able to create whatever you want with the different categories and make sure all your signals are being received. So this is where people get stuck. They think, I just need to find the right food. There isn't one. But the issue is often when they eat, how often they feed the microbes, and how predictable the pattern is. So just think about you. How do you feel when you get fed consistently? You have your breakfast and your lunch and your dinner and your snacks or whatever way you eat on a consistent basis, around the same consistent time. And as a result, your microbes know this food is coming, and they know what you eat, and therefore it knows what to expect, and it's getting fed. Small exposure also matters. So the gut responds better to small amounts. That's why when you're trying new foods, you don't dump huge amounts into the diet. You just try a tablespoon. Repeated exposure, daily signals, and then occasionally you can have a large occasional change to that, maybe Thanksgiving dinner or something like that in terms of volume. But generally speaking, you want to make sure your gut microbes like the foods you're feeding it and can handle it. And so you may go slowly at first and then build up. This is a reframing the problem. So this isn't about discipline like most people think. This isn't about willpower. There's so many foods to choose from within the categories, you don't have to worry about it. It's about building microbial capacity through consistency. And what this sets up next is one consistency is in place, right? You're going to have variety becoming easier because you're choosing similar things that are going to feed similar microbes. Reactions decrease, tolerance improves, and structure has to come first. So this is why we want to look at what we're eating, what categories they fall into, and how they work. If your gut feels unpredictable, look at the pattern. It's not just the food, it's the how, when, and where you're eating. So I hope that helps you understand this particular aspect of gut health. This is an important one, and it's a fun one because if you're choosing different foods and trying new things, that can be a lot of fun, but it also has to be done thoughtfully. Now, if you like this content and you wanted to check out my other videos, please do so. If you want a step-by-step framework to build microbial capacity comfortably, then there's a link for the gut balance method below, or you can use this QR code. And if you want to, please hit subscribe and like so that the algorithm will help you find more content like this.